All right, we are back from the 2025 Borealis Psychedelic Science Summit in Stockholm. My name is Yoshi, and I'm joined now by Dr. David Sjöström. Welcome, David.
Thank you very much.
How's it going?
It's going very well. Super happy, a bit overwhelmed.
Yeah.
But inspired. Yeah.
Couple of busy days here at the conference.
Yes, very much so. Yeah. And also pre-conference and just preparing to give a talk in front of all these excellent researchers in the field, and talking about adolescent psychedelic use and introducing our new clinical trial and in English. And so it's been very intense. Yeah,
I bet. I can imagine. But you're heading home pretty soon, if I recall, after this interview.
Yes, I want to. I mean, it will be very nice to stay for the after party, but I have a family back home, and looking forward to return.
I bet. Tell me a little bit about your background and how you got to working in the psychedelic field.
Yeah, happy to. I'm a resident child and adolescent psychiatrist, soon to be fully specialized here after New Year's. So that's my main hat, is to meet children and adolescents and their parents in a part of life when they are suffering from various psychopathology. Currently working in adult psychiatry. I am also psychotherapist soon, fully trained in acceptance and commitment therapy. And I'm a PhD student at Lund University, having my half-time evaluation soon. And my project is about how adolescents use psychedelics, how they experience it, if they have different experiences compared to adults, and if they have different outcomes compared to adults.
What age bracket would that count as, adolescents?
Adolescence most often is defined as being starting around onset of puberty, and lasting till age of 24, 25. Okay. But my particular interest is below 18. And just to finish on my way into psychedelics was, out of frustration, I think, of the current treatments that we have in adolescent psychiatry. And here also important to say that we do a lot of excellent work. We help a lot of people, a lot of young people to get better. Great practitioners, doctors, psychologists, etc. But still, a lot of patients don't get better. And a lot of patients get stuck. So I went online to, many years now ago, I went online to see what new methods was out there. And I came across, the psychedelic renaissance, in adult psychiatry, and got curious, how would this be to apply in adolescent psychiatry? But I mean, it was just took a lot to just formulate that thought, because it's, we live in a culture and idea that this is very dangerous, and it cannot. How can this be helpful? And should we allow young people to do psychedelics in therapy? It was, even for me, very hard to even formulate those thoughts. And we should be very careful. And we can get back to that. But that got me very interested. And I did a training at the Mind Foundation. I was in the first cohort of their augmented psychotherapy training. So there I got a lot into psychedelic science and therapy.
All right. Tell me a little bit about your current work. I guess you've touched upon it in the intro here, but something that you're working on now, and what are you most excited about in your current work?
So I work in a few different projects. My main project is my PhD project, and I'm most excited about interviews that we are doing. Qualitative research has its obvious limitations.
Of course.
But it's super interesting to talk with adolescents in Sweden who have had psychedelic experiences and ask them how it was, and about the quality of the acute experience and the intentions behind it, and I also ask about how it influenced their mental health and well-being afterwards, and functionality in everyday life. And that is really interesting. And I also do interviews, because one part of the PhD project is in Brazil, because in Brazil, use of psychedelics like ayahuasca in religious settings with family and community is legal.
Okay.
So I realized that early in this endeavor that would be a really good naturalistic population to talk to and also study.
Right.
And of course, they have also very interesting stories to tell in those interviews. And it's really interesting to compare the setting and the context that Swedish and Brazilian adolescents do psychedelics. And then, of course, there's a lot of different settings in Brazil as well that adolescents do psychedelics. So that one I'm very passionate about.
Yeah, sounds very interesting.
Yeah.
I'm guessing your presentation yesterday was on that topic?
I was aiming at giving like a brief overview of the field of adolescent psychedelic use, pointing to that we don't know much at all. Like the body of research and evidence is really thin, but we know that adolescents under 18 use psychedelics in an increasingly way. And we know also that some of them have very beneficial outcomes, despite being very challenging psychologically, as you know, psychedelics can be. And we know also that some adolescents under 18 have very terrible experiences. And we know that we should take really good care when introducing adolescents in control clinical trials, which is not happening yet, but we have an approval for that at Lund University now in the new psilocybin for anorexia nervosa trial. But so I introduced that also in the end, and some other studies about adolescent psychedelic use and associations with mental health, but it's very thin.
Right. You mentioned before we started recording that maybe there were some questions from the Q&A session that you didn't have time to talk about yesterday after the presentation.
Yeah.
Did you want to bring some of that up? Were there some questions you wanted to clarify? Or
yeah, thank you for that. I mean, yesterday when I left the conference, my head was just like, I wish I, did it like this and said this and clarified this. And I mean, it's so much to talk about.
I'm the same after almost every podcast I do. I'm like, I should have said that. I should have asked that. But that's just the way it is. You're always going to have your what ifs.
Yeah, and especially in a short format. I mean, I was really trying to figure out what to focus on in these like 18 minutes that I had. And of course, I can only scratch the surface.
Of course, such a huge topic.
Yeah. And you need a lot of time to really get into all the nuance. And also in yourself to have someone to talk with like you, and, you know, also to enable yourself to think about what it is that you really know and how you want to communicate that.
Right.
But from yesterday, I think the main thing that I wish I emphasized more is that we know also from, I mentioned the Ismi and colleagues paper that was published from Imperial. It's the only prospective study, what I know, that compare adolescents to adults after self-initiating a psychedelic experience and measuring that pre and post, and with a 4-week follow-up. So they compared these age groups when it come to well-being effects and a lot of other measures, and it demonstrated that adolescents and adults had similar long-term benefits when it comes to well-being. And that's I think that is very interesting, because it points to the fact that adolescents can have beneficial outcomes. And I wanted to say more about, you know, these anecdotes and these people that I have talked to that have, you know, explained to me what happened to them.
Right.
As, you know, just like a number of one study, like, okay, so this person, for example, I'm thinking about 2 adolescent in Sweden, 2 girls who, when they were 13 and 14, which is very young.
Yeah.
My oldest daughter is 13 and a half. They were, they don't know each other. And they were suffering from various mental non-health. And, you know, been in adolescent psychiatry where I work, and giving a lot of interventions, but not really getting better. And their parents, who were involved in ayahuasca communities, decided to bring them to ceremony, like they do in Brazil, for example. And they had, I mean, there was very similar effects. So I say them, of course, they had different personal stories and experiences, but they had very, especially one had a very intense experience, like an adult dose of ayahuasca, long-acting DMT, as you know, and other things in there. And it was super challenging psychologically, destabilizing. And she told me that she didn't know, now when I interviewed her, she was, let's say, still below 20. So it was a couple of years ago, but still she's young. And she doesn't really remember much from that experience. But next day, she was feeling much better and had some really beautiful insights about, you know, herself and relationship issues and behavioral issues that she could clear in herself, and that relieved her, in this case, depressive symptoms and symptoms of disordered eating that was sustained.
Oh, wow.
And that makes me, as a child and adolescent psychiatrist, very curious. Like,
of course,
this is very interesting, and I've heard this kind of story in different versions after that. So that makes me very interested in, you know, okay, so some have very beneficial experiences. But it's equally important to share those stories that come from interviews with adolescents here in Sweden, but I think it's all over the world, that wants to try psychedelics, and they go out often with friends, in a cabin in the forest, and they have read a book, or they saw something on Netflix, or they listen to someone like us in the podcast, and they want to try. And they get something from a friend, and they have often someone there to sit, because you should have that. But then it becomes, often I think especially about a few cases, a few people, they took too much, and it became very intense and confusing and panicky, and the sitter could not have the control, and they ended up injured themselves very bad. And that makes me equally interested, because I think that if they would have a different context with support and parents, and at least more experienced people, and knowing what they took and how to do that, and having someone there to really knowing how to take care of that initial panic, I think that injury and harm could have been avoided to a very large extent. That's my hypothesis. So adolescents can have, like adults, psychedelic experiences that can go either way, as you know.
Is there a higher risk? Psychedelics are obviously it's a very intense experience that can destabilize a person. Do you see that there's more risk of kind of losing grip with what's real, let's say, when you're an adolescent versus an adult?
Good question. And again, there is some data on that from the ISMI paper again. You can maybe reference that here somewhere in the podcast, but it's from last year, and it's the prospective study, and they could see that the adolescents reported more challenging experiences. And they reported also more ego dissolution experience than adults, compared to the adults. And they also reported less benefit from ego dissolution. And in our we have submitted now a paper comparing. It's a cross-sectional study comparing adolescents to adults in relation to their most significant questions around their most significant psychedelic experience.
Right.
And we looked at adverse outcomes related to that, like depression, anxiety, confusion, sleeping problems, etc., perceptual disturbances. And again, the adolescents reported more significantly adverse outcomes than adults. And more fearful experiences, more negative personality change. But interestingly, we added a personality instrument, 30 items of the big 5. And when we added that in the modeling, in the analysis, it showed that a variance in personality traits, especially in neuroticism, explained more of the adverse outcomes than age alone. And we find this very interesting. I mean, it's a cross-sectional study, but it could point to this, that age is developmental stage is a thing, right, maybe, as a risk factor for more intense psychedelic experiences, adverse outcomes. But it could also be that a certain type of people with certain personality traits are more common in adolescent users than in adults. It could be also adolescents are more naturally higher in neuroticism than adults. We know from personality research. It could also be that, in adolescence, you use psychedelics in a different way too much, you have less experience. So it's really hard to say if it's just dependent on your biological age. It's a lot of other things going on there, and we don't know almost anything about that, but there is a signal there.
Got it. You mentioned you're halfway through your PhD, so when can we expect this study to be concluded? When can we see some results?
So there are 4 papers in my thesis, and the one was published last year, so you can have a look at that. And the other one is submitted now, and I will defend my thesis in a year from now, is the plan. Yeah.
All right. Be very interesting to follow that work, for sure. The broader psychedelic field, what are some highlights you see? What are some things you're excited about in psychedelic research in general? Something you've heard during this conference or outside of it, or anything you want to highlight?
Yeah, I think there's so many things, but I think the Germans are doing excellent work, in the approval of compassionate use of psilocybin for depression.
What does that mean, compassionate use?
It means they have a model similar to the one in Switzerland, where, if you are therapy resistant, you don't get better in your depression. Mm-hmm. In Switzerland, it's been allowed for many years that you can apply to use psilocybin or other psychedelics that have been deemed like safe enough and perhaps could be effective. Mm-hmm. So they have a similar model now approved in Germany. There's now the Ovid Clinic in Berlin, and I think the hospital in Mannheim, and then it's led by the Professor Gründer. So it's like an avenue opening for trying psilocybin in treating depression. Mm-hmm. That was before only available through research but now it has opened up. Mm-hmm. Due to all the data on safety and tolerance and preliminary efficacy. And I thought that was very inspiring also, the talk by Professor Gründer, that he invited other countries to follow on that example, to speed up access to these treatments, because it can really help some people.
Interesting. Where can people find and follow your work?
They can tune in at my page on Lund University. I think that's the best place. They can also send me an email. We are very happy for collaborations. So you can always send us an email, either me or Petri Kajonius and Emma Klasdotter Knutsson, or Poya Radmo Bahed, who is the principal investigator in the psilocybin study. Mm-hmm. And we have a web page coming up for communicating on that specific trial. So that's a good place also to get in contact about.
Do we know the address of the coming web page yet, or no?
It will be very good to have it ready now, but it's hopefully coming up in a few weeks.
Got it. All right. Well, Dr. David Sjöström, thank you so much for sitting down and having a chat with me.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me. It's been great. Yeah,
much appreciated. And thanks to everyone who was tuning in. My name is Yoshi from the Borealis Psychedelic Science Summit. Catch you next time.